Governor Cuomo says a college degree is now what a high school diploma was years ago, but is it essential and affordable? I'm Daniel Pluff. Two college presidents join me for an all-new Central here on Fox 68 and My 43. Governor Andrew Cuomo says a college degree is now what a high school diploma was years ago. But some question whether a degree is essential and perhaps more importantly, is it affordable? We'll discuss that issue along with how colleges are meeting the needs of a changing job market and whether our graduates are fully prepared for that market. But first, welcome to this edition of Central here on Fox 68 and My 43. I'm Daniel Pluff. Thank you so much for joining us. And two college presidents joining us from local schools. I'm happy to have both. And let me introduce first Dr. Shirley Collado, who joins us from Ithaca College, where you are the recent president of the college, previously with Rutgers, Newark, and Middlebury colleges. Also the first Dominican American to be president of a college, which is good for you. And one last thing on that, Ithaca, I understand, celebrating 125 years this year of educating students, so that's quite a feat in itself. Perhaps not that long at Lemoyne, but Dr. Linda Lamora from Lemoyne College, the first lay woman president of any Jesuit school, joins us from Lemoyne. Again, Linda, thank you so much for joining us as well. Pleasure having you.
Thanks for having me.
Number of topics to get through, including education, the cost of school, of course, and whatnot, but it just strikes me first, Dr. Lamora, with you, having taken two daughters on the college search schedule, you never really know what triggers them to like one school over another. But I'm curious from your perspective, as you've spoken with students, what are they looking for in a school? What are their traditional wants and needs in any particular college?
In my experience, the students are looking for a particular fit. They'll often tell you within a few moments that I can see myself here over the next 4 years. Interestingly enough, what a student is seeking and what parents are seeking could be two totally different things.
It usually is, by the way. Yeah, it usually is. Dr. Collado, you might not like the word competition. I don't mean to set it up that way, but as we sit here in our studios, within a reasonably short drive, you're an hour and 20, hour and a half minutes away.
Yes.
We have some tremendous schools in the central New York market. So how does an Ithaca, how does a Lemoyne, how do you compete or attract students and draw them in with all this great competition out there?
Yes, I think it's very much like President Lamora said, in that it is visceral. It is about making that connection to a moment, to a person, to a place. So for us, it's a huge advantage to have a student physically get onto our campus, and we're really committed to making that more accessible and more affordable for many students in the region and certainly beyond the region who want to find themselves to a place like Ithaca.
Having gone through the admissions process with both daughters, I don't know if that's an art or a science, and I don't know if I was going to say, maybe you're going to give me some secrets here, but how does Ithaca determine who gets in and who doesn't? I mean, who and what are you looking for?
So we are the who and the what is what we're most proud of, in that there is not a mold to a specific student. I would say, and I think this is true for many undergraduate residential colleges, we happen to be one with over 6,000 students, largely focused on the undergraduate experience in a beautiful region with two neighboring institutions that provide wonderful collaborations.
Cornell being one?
Cornell University and TC3, really, really amazing partners. And I would say, it's very holistic for us. It is about an entire person coming and joining us and intentionally being part of our community. And we started as a music conservatory, as you know. We have the rare combination of a liberal arts core with the blend and complement of professional education that we lean into, which is really important for the workforce. And so having students experience that, be drawn to that, and I would say a big piece is also the diversity and background of our students, broadly defined.
Dr. Lamora, let's get into the nuts and bolts, the educational side of things. That's really why you're here, right? Our job market, certainly locally, but even nationally, has changed over the years. Locally, maybe not as much manufacturing. You're a local person like me, as I remember, right?
I am, that's right.
But how is a Lemoyne, how are schools in general adapting to the changing job market? New programs, new courses of study, what are you doing?
Sure. Well, Dan, we're adding programs as we see various sectors of the economy evolve. We have to be in tune with what's going on both regionally and nationally, and I dare say internationally, in order to prepare our students well. We have very deep working relationships with various sectors, leaders in various industries, from business to healthcare to engineering and education, so that we have a sense of how various career paths are evolving. At the same time, we want to make it clear to our families that it's not a high-quality education or a job, but rather a both and. And that's absolutely essential as we prepare our students for a dynamic economy, in that the liberal arts core curriculum allows our students to adapt and to be intellectually nimble, since we all know that students today will take at least, 4 or 5, maybe even 7 job changes over the course of their lives.
Right, and just being here, I know that years ago, Lemoyne was always thought of as a school where a lot of CPAs came, was a big accounting background there.
Right.
But now with the Madden Business School, which is getting some acclaim, and courses in healthcare. Can I share with you, I won't mention the name, a friend of mine, a little younger than me, not enough to say so, but she's taking a healthcare course, becoming a nurse practitioner at Lemoyne. Well, there's a field that is not shrinking, and you're adapting to that, I take it.
Absolutely. Those areas of the economy are absolutely burgeoning for a whole host of reasons, including the aging of the population, and that drives our regional economy, healthcare does. So we need to be tapping into that particular sector. And the interesting thing about some of these healthcare programs is that they're bumping into other disciplines, for example, management information systems. Right? So when the disciplines speak to one another, as they do at a place like Ithaca College and Lemoyne College, that's how we're preparing
So
students.
same question about Ithaca. I mean, are there new courses you're offering now because of the changing job market? Again, I'm trying to get to the theme of, as we're graduating students, are they ready? Are they prepared?
Sure. I would say it's something that we're incredibly proud of, in that we have really, from our very roots, been about theory, practice, and performance. We started as a music conservatory. You can understand the importance of studying theory, the importance of practicing something deeply, and then performing it and activating into the world. And we started that way, and then expanded into really embracing the liberal arts core and these professional areas, including health sciences and human performance. So you could be a student at Ithaca College studying occupational therapy and being liberally educated in our integrative core curriculum. We in fact introduced a new integrative core curriculum just a couple of years ago, because of the dynamic market, but also because of our deep commitment to the power of being liberally educated.
In my day job, of course, you focus on the financial markets and all of that. And Dr. Lemur, just a question. One thing that I wish we'd see more of, and this coming off of the financial crisis of '08 and all the things that went wrong there, are we teaching business ethics, though? And I would think of any place, maybe Lemoyne might consider something like that. Is that something new to throw into the mix?
Well, in the case of Lemoyne, that is a part of a 450-year-old tradition. Business ethics and ethics across the curriculum is integral to everything we do. Every student at Lemoyne, whether they're majoring in accounting or physics or chemistry, has a full complement of philosophy courses that teaches them those essential elements of ethics and integrity across all of the professions. In the case of the Madden School, we have embedded within it something called the Jesuit Case Series, where every business case series that a student studies has an ethical dilemma that he or she must be cognizant of.
Are you seeing that at Ithaca? I mean, just, again, maybe broadening things out a little bit, not just teaching the nuts and bolts of things, but maybe some ethics or something beyond that, community service, anything like that?
Sure. So, I mean, the bottom line is, in the liberal arts core, in the integrative core curriculum, there are themes that are completely about what it means to be a human being in a socially just society, what it means to be a citizen, and the applications of integrity, ethics, humanity are core to what it means to be liberally educated in general. And so our students have the opportunity to apply that. The other thing is, we are in a region, in a part of New York State, where our students are deeply engaged within the academic program and extracurricularly in the local community of Ithaca, New York.
Well, I'm going to talk to you later about that as well, about keeping them here. That's a whole other thing.
Very real.
Yeah, but not that you would, you're probably not going to tell a student what to study or what to major in, but as you look out, even currently or maybe a couple of years from now, in your view, where are the best prospects for careers? Where's the growth going to come from career-wise, do you think?
So
what fields?
So it's really interesting. I don't narrow it down to a specific field because our students run the gamut in terms of their added value of education at Ithaca College and what we see them doing in the world. Whether you're in theater arts, mathematics, physics, occupational therapy, English, these students are soaring and going out, and it's our responsibility to make sure that they are ready for that opportunity. Well, I will say that we're seeing more and more of, Dan, that is the ability to be culturally competent, to understand what it means to be civically engaged in society across disciplines.
So I ask you this not as a host, but as a parent.
Yes.
Will it pay the bills? Right? So you want your student, your student, but your children to do well, to hopefully like what they're doing. But I'm looking also, where are the jobs, Dr. Lamore? Where are the jobs going to be, do you think?
Sure.
And I mentioned healthcare. It just seems like that's a growth field. I don't know.
No question about it. It absolutely is a growth field. But also, Dan, I think it's important to note that Georgetown University and the Center for the Workforce has indicated that over the course of a career, anybody who has a 4-year degree will earn, on average, at least $1 million more than someone who does not have a 4-year degree. We are very cognizant of parents' desire to see a return on the investment. But the data do not suggest that majoring in any one particular discipline will allow you, for example, to earn more money than another, because we see people toggling in between various sectors of the economy. I will say, to get to your previous question, what should a student study? In addition to the good points mentioned here, every student should have facility with data analytics. Whether you're an English major or a computer science major, that is integral to being nimble in the 21st century, on top of all the other things that we espouse.
Is this because technology is ruling the world? Is that where we're going? Is that what you mean? Or?
We're being inundated with data from multiple sources, and students need to be able to discern what is real, what is not real, and then ultimately how to use those data to problem solve very complex 21st century problems. Any student who can do that will have a leg up in the economy.
Well, and any student who's liberally educated at the deepest level is going to have critical thinking skills to be able to be a responsible consumer of information. And that's core to any one of our courses.
So I don't know really how this fits in, but I just thought I'd throw this out there. As I've talked to college students, just friends that I know, et cetera, you can't extrapolate that out, but on my little window on the world, it seems like more than ever, students are talking a lot about the political climate. And, for years and years, historically, college campuses have been a place for debate, discussion, protest. Are you sensing a little more of that now under the political climate that we have currently?
Sure. So I will say, I was just sharing with my colleague in kindred spirit here as we started.
You're not supposed to talk before the show.
We did. We
I
talked
should have
briefly,
separated you two.
But we've gone into this year with our country in turmoil. 2 weeks before my students got to campus, we were looking at what was happening at Charlottesville, Virginia, at a great institution in the southern part of this country, followed by announcements about DACA, travel bans, a number of things that have, and then let's not even mention the impact of climate change and the enormous natural disasters that we have seen. Our students are, like our country, tied up in knots, and we have to be invested in giving them the right tools and the constructive space to be, as I say, brave spaces where students can be fully responsible and respectful in really talking through these hard issues. And if we can't do it at a residential undergraduate campus, then I don't know where we could do it in America.
It just seems to be more, more on the rise recently. I'm too young, but I mean, I remember reminiscent of Vietnam days where there was quite. But Dr. Lamore, here's the thing. We did a program a while back, which I'm going to read some emails on concerning fake news, bias in the news, and comments come in about, it's so the news media is so left-leaning, and similarly, comments have been made. Well, this all stems from what they're teaching them in college because the colleges are so liberal and left-leaning. You would disagree?
I think that we have our students listen to a wide range of opinions. They study a multiplicity of disciplines. Is it true to say that on average professors tend to veer a little bit left of center? Yes, I think there are data to substantiate that. However, any college campus that has, for example, the existence of a business school on their campus, they're more likely to have a mixed amount of views, both economically and politically, and we want our students to hear that wide range of opinions.
All right, thank you. Let me get into the money side of it first. Before we do, just a question or two just on sports in colleges. There are some schools out there that will award sports scholarships but not academic scholarships, and I have a problem with that personally, which, you know, whether you agree or not. But are sports becoming too popular on campus, too much of the school program? Or I get that they make money for the school, but is it too much?
Well,
too
I
much
would
emphasis?
say I'm a little biased here in that I am very proud that we are a Division III athletic school.
Well, you
that
should be.
We are absolutely about being what it means to completely embrace competitive athletics and the added value and the incredible skills that our students gain by competing athletically, but by still being fully present and fully supported by all of our coaches as educators on our campus, so that students get to be whole students as athletes. And that's the kind of environment I want to invest in.
College costs, Dr. Lemura, are going up, some would argue, at a rate that exceeds the rate of inflation. So, you know, why is that, number one, and how do we slow that down?
Sure. That's the $20 million question. I think that before 2008, before the Great Recession, colleges were raising tuition at rates significantly higher than inflation. Post-2008, that's not necessarily the case. Increases have been much closer to inflation. The primary cost drivers is hiring and retaining the best talent so that people like your daughter have access to people who will inspire them and to reach their potential. But in addition to that, there's space, there's technology, there's the latest trends and research. Those are costly.
I'm with you. I get all of that. But you know, Dr. Coyano, maybe to you, are you concerned at all that we may be pricing some families out of the market? Because it's just, it isn't cheap. And for some, it just becomes too much of a hurdle, and that
Absolutely.
Troubles me, you know. So are we worried?
It should trouble all of us. I mean, I think that absolutely I share your concern. Ithaca College has for some time been deeply invested in still being as accessible and affordable as we possibly can. We made very tough decisions prior to my arrival around the cost and affordability of the college and other things that we chose not to do in order for tuition increases to really be constricted.
I read a quote, and I'm paraphrasing it, so feel free to correct me, but a quote in the Ithaca College magazine, IC View, is it?
Yes.
Where you said something to this effect, and again, help me, that in perhaps the not too distant future, community schools, public colleges, may very well be tuition free. I mean, that puts a little pressure on you, does it not?
It certainly does, but I have really throughout my career as interesting that was sitting here in Syracuse, New York, as Chancellor Cantor, Nancy Cantor, when she was here at Syracuse University, who was my former boss at Rutgers University, Newark.
So I can't talk about her then, right?
No,
okay.
But we can say great things about her. But the bottom line is that we have to invest in, rather than being competitive, what does it mean to be a private college serving a public good? What's the added value of an undergraduate residential college in the context of, I praise, if we want to make public education, public institutions more affordable for young people in our region and their families, especially the middle class, our private colleges should be thinking about partnerships. They should be thinking about 2-year to 4-year. They should be thinking about private and public partnerships, moving into a space, and it is inevitable, and you read this in the interview, the future of higher ed will require us to do cross-sector work and reimagine our business model, because what we've been doing for some time will not be sustainable, and we're embracing that.
So, Dr. Lemura, it's related to this, I think, is I'm reading more and more about the governor's Excelsior program.
Sure.
Free tuition to those who qualify. You know, you have to qualify and be admitted, of course, to the state schools.
Sure.
I'm mixed on that because on the one hand, you know, you don't want to deny anybody an education.
You bet.
But again, it's probably a similar pressure point for you in that
It is.
you're not going to participate in that.
No. Actually, on some strange level, the governor has done the privates an extraordinary favor. We now are forced to refine and to explain our value proposition. And we do that with real data, not with hyperbole, but with an explanation of the real bottom line of what it costs, the extraordinary value to the taxpayer insofar as private education is concerned. The fact that our retention and graduation rates are off the charts, these data need to be shared with a discerning public so that they can determine what in fact is a profound return on investment, and then the placement rates. And finally, I'll say, Dan, the privates have been cultivating their alumni networks since the day they were founded. Yes. Those networks are an asset that cannot be calculated.
But here's another problem I have. I've got all these problems all of a sudden. $1.3 trillion of student debt out there, student loans.
You bet.
1.3 trillion.
Sure.
That doesn't bother you?
No, it bothers me immensely, but it also, when you get down to the brass tacks of that particular data, there's another story here as you unwind what's really transpiring. The amount of federal and state aid to students has been flat, and actually the purchasing power of those dollars, in spite of the public good, has really gone precipitously downhill. That forced a Governor Cuomo then to offer essentially free, but we all know that nothing's really free, and that sadly free is not sustainable because we all know that prices ultimately go up.
So, Dr. Collado, Dr. Lamura earlier in the show made a comment about, you know, and I've seen the studies, you know, 2-year or 4-year degree generally leads to higher income. Is that still holding true? And let's assume it is, but is it holding true to the point where it's more than enough to offset the cost of the education? Do you agree with that? Have you seen those studies, I'll bet?
I have, and I think that we also need to be thinking about what it means to, and this is I think what the privates and undergraduate residential colleges focusing on the liberal arts really need to push on, and the governor is pushing us on this, and that is that the bottom line is, what does it mean to live a purposeful life, to do something that you deeply care about as a citizen, and you should do that with as little debt as possible, absolutely.
Well, it's a lot,
and you should do that with an ability to live a full life in the current market that we're in.
I just worry, you know, because it is so. You met our director Andrew. He's got under a 2-year-old son. I don't have the heart to tell him he's going to have to harvest a kidney to pay for the tuition by the time that kid's ready to go, because of what's happening. So hopefully there'll be some compromise here.
Well, let me mention something, a couple of things. One is that I do think that even though there is some consortia work happening, we do need to think about how institutions are coming together and working across sectors. I think there is a magic and possibilities that can happen there in ways that we have not shared in the past, where we've been competing and we have been colleges on the hill, if you will, and Ithaca College is not about that. That is not in our future. That is not who we are, who we want to be.
Okay.
And so that's an important piece of the work going forward for all of our institutions, not just the privates or the publics.
Give me just one moment, won't you? Because I've been promising and threatening to read some of the email comments we've gotten from previous shows, and I want to do that now on a couple that have come in more recently here. We've been rerunning a program that we sat down with Onondaga County Executive Joni Mahoney some time ago. Comments still coming in on that, including this one. Hello, Dan. Just watched your interview with Joni Mahoney. I want to tell you I love your interviewing abilities. Now, you knew I was going to read that right off the bat, right? I learned more in the past 30 minutes than I have in a long time. Karen writes, she says, if we could just figure out how to plummet, her word, plummet, the crime rate, I would be willing to stay here in Central New York. Karen will pass those comments on to the county executive. Unfortunately, we've done a number of shows. Our topics have come up on the opioid epidemic here in Central New York, and that's not going away. Congressman John Katko sat here and talked about this. He was early on this topic. This one came in, it struck me as kind of interesting. Good topic on the heroin explosion in Central New York. Not surprised, though, while heroin was a huge society-destroying problem in inner cities and little attention to it other than prison sentences. Bill says now, since it's in your neighborhood, all of a sudden it's a problem with lots of attention.
My goodness.
Bill, I don't have anything to say on that other than thank you for your comment. I think you have a point there, quite frankly. A couple of comments came in on healthcare. I'm going to skip them in time. I'll come back to them. But one of the best shows we did in a while was our program on fake news and bias in the news. Two interesting comments came in. First, we would like Mr. Pluff to now interview us readers of the Post as to give our opinions on how inefficient leadership is at the paper. Joe, I'm not sure I agree with you on that, but appreciate your comment as well. I'm not sure that was even something that we discussed on the program. And finally, this one, Mr. Pluff, Charles writes, what happened to, quote, fair and balanced? Both Mr. Kennedy, president of Syracuse Media Group, and Dean Branham from the Newhouse School were obviously left-leaning. Charles, I'm going to disagree with you. I think we covered that topic pretty well, covering all different sides, but I appreciate your comment on that. Please send us any of your comments, questions, criticisms, ideas for future shows. Visit foxsyracuse.com. Click the central little tab up on top and send us your questions, please. So just as we wrap up, and I told you this was going to go by a little bit fast, one thing, Dr. Collado, that perhaps your colleague there is more familiar with locally here is this notion in Central New York of what we've called the brain drain. We bring these students in, we educate them, and they're flipping their hats and off they go. Now, as a college president, I don't know that you have a responsibility or an obligation to keep any of that talent here, but it would be nice.
Sure. Well, I love to comment on that, and that is that one of the things is we've talked about the shifting demographics in the northeastern region, college affordability, and a lot of the issues that you raised, Dan, that we've discussed today. We need to locally invest in talent not too far away from us. And I think that many of the regional institutions often are deeply invested in becoming more national reputation for all the right reasons. And we have diminishing demographics, right? Less students going to high school in the next decade or two that are going to be dramatic for us as an industry. But we're not looking always right in front of us in terms of where talent can potentially be and having that talent actually be retained here locally in the region.
I appreciate that. And Dr. Lamora, just quickly, I suspect more of the student body at Lemoyne is local, so maybe a better chance of keeping some of that talent here, or no?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and particularly as we partner more with Syracuse University and hopefully Ithaca College in the not-too-distant future, we want to be a part of generating the next generation of jobs, if you will. We know that we have an asset here by having these regional colleges, and we want to be a part of the solution as the economy goes from low-tech to high-tech manufacturing.
That's about it. I want to thank both of you for joining us. Dr. Shirley Collado, president of Ithaca College, new in the position. Hopefully we'll have you come. Oh, well, good enough. You still qualify. Celebrating 125 years of education down in Ithaca, New York. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Dr. Linda Lamora from Lemoyne College, where you are president. Lemoyne College up on the hill here. We appreciate your comments as well. Thank you both for joining us. Great show. Well, maybe have you back and get into some of these topics again if we could. But that's it for now from all of us here on Central at Fox 68 and My 43. I'm Daniel Pluff. Thank you for watching. Mayor Stephanie Miner reflects on her leadership, the city's future, and hers in this pre-exit interview. Some call it the biggest project to hit Central New York since the Erie Canal, and if you travel on Interstate 81, you may agree. New concerns regarding sports-related concussions in young adults. Will a merger of the county and city actually take place? The new amphitheater is done, Onondaga Lake is cleaner, and property taxes may be headed lower. Too good to be true? As he enters his 7th term in office, Onondaga County District Attorney Bill Fitzpatrick joins me live here in studio. Lawmakers recently passed an increase in New York State's minimum wage, which many feel is good for wage earners and our local economy. But others disagree. With his recently announced plans to retire, we're wondering what's next. We'll talk about that and some other issues, but first, a welcome to this edition of Central here on Fox 68 and My 43. I'm Daniel Pluff. I'm Daniel Pluff. I'm Daniel Pluff. I'm Daniel Pluff. Join me for an all-new Central here on Fox 68 and My 43.
Join us every Sunday for Central on Fox 68 and My 43. As host J. Daniel Pluff sits down and interviews prominent members of the community about the important issues that affect Central New York. Asking the tough questions, getting the real answers. Tune in and see who Dan will sit down with next, and be sure to email the show at central@foxsyracuse.com with your questions and comments. Dan may read them on the air. Central every Sunday on Fox 68 and My 43.